right, so for the seat connection, I'm going to keep going here. So I'm just going to rotate this around a little bit, just so I have the same kind of consistency that the other side has. So let me just grab these guys. And again, if I use the edit mesh, I'm going to tear this off. Average vertices. It's just going to kind of blend everything nicely. There we go. And I can probably use some of what I'm getting here to get the more complicated stuff that's happening through here, which is you know, these shapes here. So there's a smaller circle, right, and it moves out from there. So in hindsight, I probably should have gone with this inner shape and then extruded it out, right? So I might, it's not too late. I think I'm gonna actually have to do that. Yeah, it's not too late. I can still do that. I can probably still do that from using just this stuff here, right? Because this is going to give me that thinner shape if I just keep averaging the vertice here. Unfortunately, we will have to kind of move this stuff in just a bit, but there we go. Right, so if I can get that kind of shape going on, and I think I've almost got this here. So I'm just seeing the G key. I don't, not there though, because it's going to separate from the middle. But I just keep hitting that G key. It's going to create a nice kind of organic shape, which is very, very similar to the shape I want. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. All right. So where are we here? So let me go look at this here. Yeah, so if I can now this is actually a little bit thinner though, so a little bit closer in. So I really need to get those screws in there to see what's happening. So maybe that's the next thing I need to do, is just make one of those screws, make sure it's the right size. So, well, what do those screws look like? Well, they're IKEA screws, which means that they are Allen key screws. And luckily I've got an image here of that. So it actually has a number of sides. So it's circular. It has 1, 2, 3, probably 6 sides. 4, 5, 6. The other 3 are under this. So it rounds out. This is perfectly circular. And then it's got 6 sides. It kind of divots into 6 sides. So let's create that. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to start off with the 6 sides first. So I'm going to go to my top view. That's where I'm going to grab a cylinder, because cylinders are great because we can actually make them have 6 sides. So I just type in 6. There we go. Right? But if I want them to be able to smooth and keep 6 sides, instead of 6, I'm going to type in 12. And then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to grab every other edge, just like this, every other edge, all 6 of them, and I'm going to rotate them. I'm going to rotate them in. Now, at the moment, I can't, probably because symmetry's on. Nope, why can't I? Let me do this again. So Q. Now my rotation's way out there in on the side. If this ever happens, there is a way to bring it back. So D, and let's see, if I just, you know what, I'm just going to center pivot. There is a way to change that. And that way is simply by hitting E, the left mouse button. Oh, I see. See, I'm in component mode. That's why. Let me just go over to object mode or world, either of those. So let me just undo that. And somehow I got switched over to that. And again, I just want to bring these a bit closer together. It doesn't have to be exactly on top of each other. It could be just a bit of a gap. It's probably more realistic because there's a bevel that way. Good stuff. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of it and then just control. Remember, control only deselect. So I'm just going to deselect the middle. So those caps are selected. Right, so now I'm left with this. Which is kind of what I want. So let me just grab this bottom section here and scale it out. Now remember, when we looked at this, so we have the interior that is hexagonal. Is that right? Hexagon, is that 6? And then this part is perfectly circular, and then it's flat, and then it goes into, you know, this nice circular shape here. Right? So that's what we want. So we've got the hexagon. Well, how do we get the circle part? Well, we just click the circularize, which sometimes does this, right? It'll sometimes offset, so you just have to circle it back or rotate it back just a little bit. And that's pretty good. So it does kind of dip in a little bit, but not nearly as much. So something like that. Not quite so deep. And then what we can do is double click on this, extrude this out. WER, I'm just going to manually extrude this out. T, I can go back to my manipulator, add some divisions, maybe 2. 2 is usually pretty good. Ugh, gross. Don't do that. I'll just manually add them in. So 1. This is better done on low res, so I'm always switching between 1 and 3. And now I can take this guy and extrude that again. And start to move this down. Right, so I've got the shape of that. Something like this. I'm going to extrude it one more time. Well, let me save first. I'm going to extrude it one more time. Move this in, one more time, and just scale it inwards. Alright, so that's the bottom of the screw, which we don't see. And we just got to figure out this guy. So we got to take this, extrude it in, right? Because it's just the top of it. It does, like the Allen key has to fit into something. So I'm going to move this down, hit extrude, move it down. Right. Now we're going to use quad draw, but I'm going to try, it does some weird stuff in a neat way if you don't have anything live. So I want to fill this in. I want to quad relate this. Now let's see what happens if I use quad draw here. So I'm going to select this, hit quad draw. And what I want to do again is I want to quad relate these guys. So if I just go in and if I get this just right, I should be able to go right all the way across here. And if it doesn't let me do that, which it doesn't look like it's going to, let me grab this guy. And I'm going to grab that guy. You know what? It's not quite a quad though, is it? That isn't. You know what? Let me undo that. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put 2 in the middle. So I should be able to go this way. So is it going to let me do this? Probably not. It won't. You know what? Let's not use quad draw. Instead, just double click on that. Shift, right click. Right near the middle, we've got fill hole. Now this is going to give me not quite the shape I'm looking for, so I need to extrude that in at least once. And just scale this in just a bit. There we go. So it's going to give me a not so good shape here. So something gross happened. Something gross happened there. Yeah, there's something up with that. Let me just do this again. So grab this guy, fill hole. So again, shift right click. There we go, that's what I want. That's better. All right, so now we got our IKEA screw. Now this edge could be a little bit more pronounced, right? We could always make it thinner or thicker just by scaling that out. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna save, delete history, and let's move this up into place. Right now it's too big. Obviously that screw is as big as the chair. I'm gonna rotate it 180 degrees and move it up. So I can kind of see, the size of it. It's actually not a tiny screw. Not like a super tiny screw. It's not like super big either. So, it's going to go right in here. Right about there. And this is about right. Now, because I'm working on this bottom side, I want to make sure that I've reversed the surface. Let me just delete history on this. And mesh display, reverse. Okay. Now let me go back to the image. Alright, so this is actually pretty thick. So this outer bit needs to be thinner. And I think it needs to be a bit more bubbly. A bit more of a bubbly screw. If that needs to be smaller on the inside, then just make it smaller. So I'm going to just scale this down just a bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here. Now at some point these guys aren't really circular anymore. So I'm just going to select the screw, Control D, and just move it up. There we go. So it's over top of that opening. So at some point this became not as circular, I don't think. Well, no, it's still pretty circular. Okay, good stuff. That it's a bit thick still, so I'm going to go through and just take this stuff, and again average vertice. You can actually average vertice an entire row of faces if you wanted to. It might be a bit faster. Alright, so I think that's pretty good. I should be able to extrude out from there. Alright, so I'm going to save, and I'm going to stop this video here.